Welcome to this Force Friday. Today we're going to talk about not starting until what, right? We're going to discuss what you should have a good grasp of before you actually start drawing. And in order to do so, let me introduce you guys to our other Force instructors. And here they are. How's it going, Mrityunjay?
I'm doing good, Mike. There's a great question today, so I'm kind of excited to answer.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. I'd like to know myself. What is the answer? How's it going with you, Swami?
Yeah.
Say what?
Yeah.
What were you saying, Mrityunjay?
speaking.
Yeah.
Now I would be pretty excited if I were a viewer, for the stream. So I was like, oh, what is this thing,
Yeah, what am I not supposed to do, right? Yeah.
Yep.
How about you, Swinley?
Yeah, good. Everyone is looking for the secrets, to drawing. So hopefully we'll learn it today.
Exactly. I'm looking for the secret. So let's find out what it is.
You've been looking for a long time, I think.
Yeah, I'm still looking. I'll be looking forever. So here we go, right? So we've got don't start drawing until, and what is it? Well, it's until you have an idea, right? The goal here is to actually come in with some type of thought. It doesn't mean that you're going to, like your hands are going to blow up or your brain's going to blow up if you start drawing without an idea. In fact, I typically call that stream of consciousness drawing. So here, let's do a little sketching, give you guys some visuals to look at. So here, stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness, it's like that. Yeah, consciousness versus a plan. And I've talked about this a little bit in the past. I usually have presented this more of as the upright pyramid versus the upside down pyramid. In general, Force is like this. This is normally what we're teaching. We're like, hey, we have an idea, and then we're going to go down the pyramid actually to smaller and smaller concepts. Versus here from the top down, you might start with small ideas and then kind of find a big concept, right? Some artists do actually really well with this. I just blanked on his name. There's a guy on YouTube that does really, really well. There's a few people on YouTube actually that do really, really well with this. Gary, right? So I did an interview with Gary Villarreal, right? He usually works actually from stream of consciousness, not entirely. Let me back up a little bit. Not entirely in that what he does before he gets here is it's usually off of something he read. Might even be music or something. Something is inspiring him, and he'll kind of like doodle around and make some shapes like this, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, I see this. This is an eyeball, right? And then, oh wait, yeah, this actually could be another eye, and here's the face, and this guy's nose looks like this, and and suddenly I can start like building this out, right? I had no intention of doing that, honestly. Before I started, I just doodled that and found that. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is try not to start drawing, at least for Force drawing, until you have an idea, right? And there's lots of different ideas that you can have. I listed a few here, and I'm sure there's more than this, but these are some that came off the top of my head. And they are functional metaphors. What is that? Well, again, that could be a machine. I always love using the concept of the column, right? The like leg that's like a column. I also use like huge natural disasters, such as tornadoes and tidal waves. Again, because the bigger it is, the more power and energy it has. It might just be the forces themselves, like, hey, I have an idea. I see that the back has force. I'm going to go and draw that. But that's already an idea, right? I'm entering into the drawing experience, trying to find those forces and rhythms. And that's, I think, one of the biggest benefits to what you guys will learn from us in going into the Force drawing approach is we're giving you things to go after, right? And it's more than go copy the model and measure, right? It's deeper, right? It's bigger than that. And hopefully, more exciting than that for you. At least for us, it is. an emotion or a story, right? Maybe the model is taking on a pose that you feel. You're like, oh, they're terrified, they're scared, they're happy, they're angry, right? Whatever it might be. It might be that it's a story, and story and character kind of connect into one another, right? So maybe the model's taking up a pose, and you're like, oh, they're skiing, they're a race car driver, they're a spy. And you can take that even further into, well, who are they in this story? Right? It's like, oh, she reminds me of Robin Hood if she were standing in that particular pose, right? He reminds me of the Hulk, whatever it might be. Why? Why is this also important? Well, because I believe that having sort of this golden nugget at the beginning is something to hold on to. And that helps drive you to a better outcome. It also, by the way, gets you, I think it gets you a little bit out of the worry of the accuracy element versus I'm after something bigger. And the accuracy will come from you chasing your idea instead of just chasing academia. To me, academia is in support of all of this stuff, not the other way around. You see, I want you to want to learn the academia because you have ideas that you want to draw. You see, so I think personally, the other way is just pretty darn boring. It's pretty darn boring for academia, for just the academia's sake. And granted, I come from the entertainment industry, so maybe that's why I'm opinionated about this in this way. But to me, it's like, yeah, I want to get more out of this. I know I would not have been doing figure drawing for 30 years now if my sole interest and goal was how accurate can I be to the model and can I copy them well? I would definitely not be here teaching this today. Definitely not. I'd be too bored. What keeps me drawing the figure is that I have these ideas and I have lots of different ideas, and as you guys know, sometimes it's sound effects that go through my head and I'm like, oh, this is like racing a car, right? And I'm hearing the screeching of tires and so on moving through the body. And then that gives me an emotional experience and a physical experience. Or it is, she's like Robin Hood. I need to get this pose to feel right. It has to get that sense of character across, right? And it could be as simple as just getting the forces down, because like I said, that could be the car, for instance. Those are very provocative all on their own. Okay. So we want you, we, Mrityunjay Swanley and I, we want you to have an exciting, interesting, intellectual time drawing, right? So try to have an idea. If you're sitting down, you're like, I don't know what to draw, and you're really stumped and you have no reference, then my suggestion would be go get reference, find something that inspires you. Not all of us, by the way, also are cut out to just draw out of our head. Some people are more than others. If you are that kind of person, great. If you're not, go get reference, find something that inspires you and makes you want to draw. I used to actually feel guilty about that. Now it's a lot easier for me, but at the beginning, after school and even after Disney, it was a little tougher for me to draw from imagination. And then I found this quote by Rodin, which I may have, again, mentioned in an earlier live session, but it has something to do with the idea of like having no will or desire to draw until something inspires him to do so. Like the outside world is what he's what he's responding to, what he's reacting to. And that was definitely more where I was at. I was really trained to see and respond to what I see. Now it's much easier to, draw out of my head. But there's plenty of times if I'm just drawing out of my head, I'll get bored after a while because it doesn't feel like there's a challenge in it. I either have to have like a job that it's attached to, and I'm like, okay, I'm storyboarding this thing out, right? Or when I'm teaching, there's a reason for the drawing. It's like, oh, okay, I see. Let's take this and push this a little bit further, So, we're all different. I just want you to be aware that I'm just trying to give you some tools today that I think are great ways to start a drawing, and not drawing until you try to at least have some thought in your head to go after, okay? So with that, we're going to start with Mrityunjay today, then I'm going to draw a second, and then our anchor man for this afternoon will be Swanley. So are you all ready, Mrityunjay?
Yes.
Okay, let me give you the power here. And it is all yours.
All right. Let's get started. So as Mike suggested, there are different types of ideas, okay? The thing is, again, there's something like to hold on to, and there's something that excites you for anything, that you do. So let's say if you're going for just a normal figure drawing session, or if you're just going for reportage drawings or anything, else in general, if you're like going for even for your job or something, then there's something, that is like your fuel, like an excitement fuel, for you to go there, and not just feel like, oh, I'm just like doing the same job, like 9 to 5 job kind of thing. So that is something, that's why it's all also on the emotional level, it's also on the physical level that affects you, mostly. And I'm going to be talking about some of the ideas, that I like, I was affected by, and how it changes my drawing. And we're just gonna wrap it up some with some demos. Okay. So what's the first thing? So I just kind of write the text on like this big layers, like opinion, right? One of the ideas that I mean, what it gives you the freedom of having your own opinion with the model. Okay. So if you're drawing someone, okay, and you don't have to draw them accurately, which gives you, I'll talk about freedom a little bit, but you can have your own opinion about that model, right? And you can say, well, I see this idea of shape, the model is very lean, and he's like, there's so much angularity, let's say, for in his body, so I want to capture that angularity, so, or you could just simply say, okay, because he's so lean, but someone else could say, oh, because he's so lean, I can see his rib cage, from the outside, so I'm just going to draw like more anatomical, kind of thing. So basically, if let's say 100 people drawing the same model, or it might be too big of a class, let's say 30 people in a class, and they could all have different opinions, about the same model, from different angles, basically. So have your own opinion about something. It also gives you um, freedom. I'm just going to talk about that in freedom. So let's come to that. So the freedom, you're going to be having a lots of freedom if you have your own ideas, for someone, like your model or your reference. So it gives you freedom of reference, which means that you're not being slave to it. Okay. Being slave to it directly means that it's overpowering you. Okay. It's like, okay, reference is the master and you are the slave. Okay. So what does it says? You have to do that, which means that, okay, just draw it accurately. In short words, just if you don't draw it accurate, your drawing sucks. That's what the slave to the reference means. Okay. So you have freedom of saying, okay, I have my own ideas about the model, and I can exaggerate, underplay, overplay, or sculpted, right? If I talk about like force drawing in general, I could just do a gesture. And I used to do that, when I was in my college time. My teacher actually gave me the challenge because I was one of the faster drawers in the class, and not to flex you guys, but I was. So he gave me like, okay, like everybody have 5 minutes to draw this model. But what you have to do is like you have to draw for 1 minute and then just rotate around the class and just like do separate like angles, for the same pose. I was like, interesting, So I was not being like trying to make it accurate, but I'm trying to just capture the gestures of it. That's my ideas. It's like I want to get fluidity out of it. I want to get fluidity out of it, and just study the reference, like the model, with all its function on different angles. Okay, so having freedom. Okay, this is a big thing, by the way. Freedom is a big deal because yeah, like who doesn't like to get free of something or anything, right? So freedom is a big one. uh I don't know, I don't know if this term exists. I'm sure it doesn't, but newness. I just made it up myself here. Newness means you are getting something new every time. Okay, so again, taking as an example a figure drawing class where the model will be there for like, let's say, 3 hours, right? It's the same model. Okay, you're not getting like different models every time, and you don't have to depend upon models to get some new things in your drawing. Okay, so you don't just get bored drawing the same model again and again, which means that if you have ideas about someone, or your reference or the model, you're gonna get like new experiences every time. So, and this happens to human body. Human body is a perfect example of the anatomical, like the best machine the nature has ever made, with combined with the poetic side of it, like the graceful side of it. Okay, so some poses, and it also depends on poses. So some poses might be very poetic, some might be very aggressive poses, okay, and some might be very emotional driven or the expression driven. So you might want to build character out of it, okay. And this is the newness. So if you're just going for the accuracy and say, and I'm just going for accuracy word again and again, because that's like what most people do. Okay, it's like, okay, I have to draw the exact rendering, the exact light and shadow. There's so much, more, okay, to figure drawing than just perfect line and shape. I know that's very important. Proportions, right? Just measuring things, it's important to study, but thing is that's only the part of your study. That's not the everything, that you want it to. So, and you want to have like new experiences, right? So imagine like if I compare to your life, you always want something new. You just don't want, oh, the same days over and over again. Just like we had quarantine, right? So everybody gets bored. So you need some newness. So use metaphors. It's like, oh, this person is like skiing, or he's like a tsunami wave, like crashing onto the city or whatever, or he's like a big building, where people can pass through between his legs, or something like that. Every time, and if the pose is more poetic like, and you feel more graceful in the gracefulness in the pose, you can just draw it very lightly and fluidity with one more fluidity, that kind of thing. So, and this affects the most, my drawing, because every time I take the new pose, the first thing that comes into my mind is what the uniqueness of the model is. Okay, is he very graceful, or is there like some part, the physical part of his body, that's kind of like attracting me the most? Is like, oh, look at this angle of the torso versus the legs, or look at the hands, like how he's like posing into, that kind of thing. So uniqueness, I go for the uniqueness straight ahead, and just try to capture the story of it. Okay, so newness. Great. I know this word doesn't exist, but try to capture that. What else? Now we have enjoyment, right? So if you have ideas, you're gonna be enjoying a lot more, a lot more, because again, it's just combines with all those previous points, right? You have freedom, so you will have enjoyment, ultimately. And you can be just free of any barriers, okay, in general. Okay, so you will pretty much enjoy. Nothing much to say here. It's just like pretty straightforward. And confidence, right? So what kind of confidence? I just like tackle this. I just like speak this word like 1,500 times in a week, and it's very, very important, right? It's like always to my mentees and to all the members, confidence, right? It's very, very important. So you don't just want to avoid like all the scratchy lines, and talking about the ideas. If you have ideas in your head that this is what I want in my drawing, then you will be confident enough. Okay, it's like, okay, I want this curve, so I'll draw that. Okay, it's something like this. Uh, mm, Let me set this up. Yeah, so it's something like that. See, it's like, oh, I want this angle, in the model, and this is I want it like a little bit exaggerated, something like this, and I'm getting it. I just want, if I have the confidence, or if I have the idea in my mind like very, very clear, I can go like that. It's like just like breaking my link, to the overall experience. So have a clear idea in your mind, and you'll win like half of your war with the fear, that you always have at drawing. Okay. So these are some of the points. Again, there could be much more, hopefully Swenli and Mike would bring, much more experiences that you can have, like much more ideas that you can have while drawing. Okay. And let's wrap it up with some demos. Mike, do I have some time?
Yeah, you're doing fine.
All right. So this pose, right? Now, for example, this pose here, he's gonna, oh, what you gonna do about it, or something like that. He's very like stubborn attitude, to it. He's like, oh, what you gonna do about it? So now here, versus like he has a stiff body because he's acting stubborn, you know, like in more of an attitude. So that's his story. Okay, so uh don't try to capture, like don't try to make it what I would say, like fluid, like over fluid or something. You know, if the figure feels straight, you know, and you think that you can make it to a good design, you know, so try to do it, you know, because that's the uniqueness of the model itself. He's more of a stiff, you know, because he's like pushing this hat. He's like, oh, what are you gonna do about it? He's like doing this hand gesture, obviously with his hand, and he's like putting his neck up, you know. So that kind of thing, you know, that's the uniqueness of this pose here. So I can do something like that, you know. And because see, the story lies within his arm, the straight arm here, you know, this straight arm, obviously, because he's putting that hand gesture, and in his neck. Okay. The legs, yeah, it is a part of story, but what I'll main focus on is like the hero of the story. Again, the legs are more of a secondary characters, you know, that obviously adds to the pose itself, right? But if you just directly go with the legs, you know, instead of starting with the hands or the neck, then you're just like losing, you know, your track basically. Okay. I'm not saying you cannot achieve that, you know, but that's what we're talking about today. You know, just go for those ideas, and that's my idea. So I will go for that first. That will be my priority, and then I'll go with all the secondary characters, you know, like that. So he's like, oh, what you gonna do about it? And he's like very stiffen up arms, something like that. First, I'll try to capture that stubbornness, you know, in there. Giving it some form. Now, very, very important, like this other hand in here. And my Photoshop's kind of lagging today, but he's like, oh, look at these finger gestures, you know, that he's posting for. I think the hand is a very big one. Yeah, something like that. And he's posing with his hands right in there, all the fingers. And then what you're gonna do about it, you know, if he's like a character in the story, right? Something like that. And his upward neck, like very, very important to capture. And you know, I can just like present some story into it. Be fresh like that. See? So what did I just capture? Okay, I'm just like capturing very subtle rhythms of the other thing, let's say neck and everything, because obviously I don't want to detach the neck. But see, my focus is here. Whoops. My focus is here. My focus is right there, and my focus is right here. I just want to, yeah, I just also want this tough fit, you know, in there to capture that. And obviously the thumb right in there. Okay, so tough face. Okay, like straight up body and like a neck up. That kind of confidence in there, right? So see, I was really clear about my ideas. Okay, combined with all the points that I just mentioned: the confidence, the freedom, the opinion. Okay, and the enjoyment. Obviously, I enjoy drawing that a lot. Okay, and there could be many more ideas, you know, and as I said, there could be opinions. So you guys obviously all, if you draw all of that, you guys will have different opinions. You know, that's how it works basically. Okay, now let's jump on to the second one if we have a little time, Mike.
Yeah, you got time.
Now what about this one, right? You're gonna be, well, you know, like freedom is like victory or some sort of, you know, like some sort of victory over his head. So, and that could be magic as well, you know. I don't know. That could be, some people might say, oh, that could be magic. You know, he's gonna be basically basically doing something like a magic trick here, right? It's gonna be, oh, this lightning ball, and he's like magic, putting some magic and just kind of destroy the whole world or whatever. Yeah, that could happen, right? So who
So
knows?
you obviously didn't grow up in New York. Because for me, he's like, yo, like, what's your problem?
Oh, like a bully, you know. Like, oh, what's
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's more like a threat, like I dare you, you know. Mhm.
it's kind of funny because we are from different places, and in here in India, it's like all the black magic thing, you know, that happens.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I know, like nobody would give that kind of pose, other than
Yeah,
that.
I know.
Kind of
It's one of
reminds
the
me
things I wanted to bring up is that, and we'll talk more about this when I come on, but where did the ideas come from? So one, as you can see, it's coming from the artist, and Mrityunjay might have a different interpretation of this than Swenley or myself have, right? So, and that's fine. It's more about how you are responding in the first place, as Mrityunjay mentioned earlier.
Yep, pretty cool hand gestures here. Again, the story lies in this part here. Okay? Always try to identify the uniqueness of the model. You know, that's I think one of the greatest thing that affects, you know, my drawings, you know, most of the time. I just straight, you know, just straight go for that story point. Story point is like, oh, what is that uniqueness in the model? Now, some people might go for this depth. I'm using this depth. I'm not mentioning it. It's like, okay, look at the size of this hand versus this hand. It's all that technical part of it, right? But it's not about that technical part today. It's mostly like that. What do you hold on to, or what do you usually start with your drawing with? Are you going for that? Oh my God, this line should be very accurate, you know, like every line should be that accurate. Yeah, I guess I'll just like start like that with the next figure and see how it comes up with what I come up with. Oh, look at this push in the neck. Yeah, I just like made it even more exaggerated. Obviously, legs add a lot to this. Now, being a little bit technical here, you know, contrast creates interest, okay, like into figure drawings. And contrast of lines comes from ideas, okay? So where I want to present my ideas, that lines would be more dark and that lines would be more blacker because I'm pressing my pencil, or in this case, the pen on the screen to get that feeling out, okay? So if I'm just like drawing the hands, let's say I'm just like drawing the hands here. So the bony parts of the hands would have much pressure onto of the pen here, you know, like that. Well, if the finger, let's say finger joints, you know, that would be more bony. And if I were to make, let's say thumb, you know, the fat part of the thumb, that would be more squishy and like soft, you know, because that's fat. So all this line weight and like the contrast comes from the ideas itself. Okay. I know it's a little bit confusing or might be too tough for you guys, but that's it, you know. I'm just basically revealing all the secrets. You know, see something like that. Now, the legs are playing just a like a physical role in it. It's not like too emotional. It's just like, okay, he got a stance to it, but yeah, that's it, you know. The main story is in the hands here, the arms, basically. So something like that, see? That will give you a very good starting point. Now you can take the figure into more detail if you want. I just like, you know, I'm more of a simple guy, you know, that likes more clarity over unique clarity over rendering and everything. So that's it, you know, that's it for this gesture. All right, just quickly, we have 1 more minute, so we can just do this. Now, again, this is more of a story-driven pose, and he's maybe standing on a hill, and look at his expression. He's just like enjoying that breeze, you know, and his hair is just like kind of flowing. This should be a girl pose, you know, to be honest, for me at least. So he's got a little bit of chest, you know, like built up. Is like that breeze, like blowing up. He cannot be that say like lazy, you know. So he's like pushing up his chest a little bit, and he's trying to enjoy, you know, I guess, in this pose. So that's my now he's not doing physical too much, you know. It's not like that kind of effortful for him. So what we have to do is like really just go for the focal point, which is his hand, this arm again. I know all the poses that I chose today, and it just like what I would say, like coincidentally fall in here. That all the poses I chose today is like mostly in the arms and the head, basically the story, but it could be anywhere, right? Yeah, that could be anywhere, to be honest. Swelly and Mike, will give you a lot more examples of that. But again, in this one as well, the story is kind of in this. He's got his head up a little bit. And he's got this arm, the hand basically, something like that. And then again, the leg gesture is like giving it some more freedom thing, I guess. So that's it, So conclusion from my side, just get your ideas out, okay? Don't be afraid to put your ideas onto the paper, even if the drawing sucks. That's far better than just going for the accuracy, because there's much more to the drawing field than to just make things accurate, okay? And again, just that's a part of it. I'm not saying it's not important. It's a very important part of it, but that's only one thing, okay? There's so many things to tackle, okay? So just go out there, enjoy, and have your opinion, about it. All right. All right, I'm gonna pass it over to Mike. Hope you enjoyed my part here.
Thanks, Mrityunjay.
Yeah, very welcome.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so while Mrityunjay was working, I was thinking, where did these ideas come from? And as I was saying while Mrityunjay was drawing, it comes from you, right? The ideas come from you. So, Mrityunjay saw Michael, the model, doing one thing. I read it as something else, right? We come from different areas of the world, different cultures, and sometimes a similar body mannerism or language could mean something slightly different, right? So something to keep in mind. A big part of all this to me is about comparison. Is how these metaphors and such show up. So to me, it's not just about looking at the model and saying the model is the model is the model, and it's about just like measurements, for instance. It's about, oh, the model reminds me of, right? So you could almost put this sentence in your mind, right? God, I can't write today, sorry. Reminds me of ... right? The model reminds me of what, right? And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you as I go through my segment. And one last thing I want to share before I start drawing is if you can go off of an idea. The idea is some level of abstraction from just the sort of hardcore measurement of it, right? And because it's abstract, to me, that means it's a simplification of going after some core concept, right? Some core idea. So that means it gives me more opportunity to it gives me opportunity to push, right? To make more of. Why is that important? Well, because really to me, the more of means clarity of. That's a hard thing to do when you're just pushing to only get it, accurate from, like I said, a measurement standpoint versus an idea standpoint. If I can go after the idea, then I become more creative. It helps with your creativity of saying, how do I make more and more and more and more of this? In essence, as I write in my books, in a way, I think it's actually more truthful than just the measuring truth, because you're getting to the essence of something, right? It's like your truth of it at that point. Now, it is a dangerous road in a way, because if you're wrong, if your idea is off, it's not actually correct based on the truth, then you're pushing in the wrong direction and you're taking the core further away from reality. But if it's correct, then you're embellishing reality. You're making more of reality, making that reality more clear, right? So in a way, it's kind of, I think it's a fun risk, this idea, right? In caricature, I always come back to caricature. Caricature is something that you all know about. So it's easy for me to say, hey, look at caricature. A good caricature will be better than a photograph of the person. You're like, wow, that really is that guy or that girl, right? Like that really nails them, right? It gives them their certain expression and it's pushing features in their face. It actually looks more like them than just a rendering of them, right? It has more personality. It's got more ideas in it that push that thing further. So, all right. So with that in mind, keep this all in the forefront of your head. You want to think about comparisons. This stuff comes from you. How some people would be like, well, I'm not creative. Like, how do I do it? Start thinking about comparing things, even if it's not the model. That car reminds me of blank. That building reminds me of blank. Look at that cloud. The cloud reminds me of blank, right? Get your head used to going through these comparison ideas, right? All right. So for instance, this model reminds me of a comet. Now, it could go two different ways. My first thought was comet because I was thinking of like her pelvis and rear end sort of flying leftward, and her arms are like a designed tail, right? I just felt like directions going that way. Notice that this is physics based in this one, right? It's like I'm thinking in terms of momentum and speed and direction through space and time, right? And that it's going to the left. I could have inverted this and said, she's holding something, she's bowing to a king, right? And she's saying like, here, maybe there's a little child standing here. And she's like, look, I found the child, right? And she's talking to this king. Could have been that. That could have gone into a character thing, right? The fact that I have the ability to go from comet to someone in a king's court, right? Like a peasant saying they found this lost child, the king's child, right? Like those are two very different ideas. I think it's really important that you have the ability to do that, especially again, if you want to go into entertainment, right? You have to be able to come up with creative ideas, right? Because ideas build on top of other ideas. And again, a lot of it is just comparison. It's that whole 1 + 1 = 3 concept, right? So why does this matter? Well, because if I were to draw her, let's try drawing her real quick. I'm gonna just put her here up in the corner. Instead of me sitting here and just saying, well, like her shoulders, her back is like this, there's an angle in it, I'm just going to measure my way down and get this over here, and her leg is like this, and the costume is like this, and the strap is like this. Like I could just measure this all out, right? Instead of doing that, to draw her, now I'm thinking about a comet as her pelvis, right? And that is going to change the way I draw her, right? Because I'm after an idea, right? So my idea starts to look more like, oh, you know what? I see this comet, right? I'm like, whoosh, like this is what's happening, right? I'm trying to get that into my drawing, right? I'm thinking of all this like pushing that way, right? And I want everything to flow off of that. That changes everything, right? So what my mind thinks is what starts to show up on the page. It's that black and white, right? It really is that black and white. I try to convey to the students at drawingforce.com, you're not here to draw like Swenley, Matunjay, or I. Really what you're here to do, maybe unbeknownst to yourself, is learn what we're thinking about when we draw. And that's why our lines look the way that they do, because of how we think. It's what we're thinking about that makes a difference. So here, for instance, if this is all shooting this way, now when I'm drawing her arms, like her arms are a tail, like I could see like smoke flowing off the tip of her hand here, right? As she's flying backwards through space. You see what I mean? So this could all be like, right? Like this is all trailed off like that. Very different, right? That'd be very different than necessarily how I would draw her as, let's say, a pauper in a king's, medieval times or something like that, right? So here's the first one. I'm just going to do these quickly so you can see my idea, and that the idea changes the way I think, right? See, I'm trying to get this idea, the flow going out that way, and she's trailing off this way. And that starts making changes, believe it or not, to how I do the drawing, right? Here's a second one. This one's really abstract, but when I look at her hands here, this here just reminded me of like a flag. Like this is almost like a post here, and this is like an unfurling of a flag, and it's in perspective. I kind of see it like this. Like here would be the blue box, for instance, right, of the American flag. And I see it sweeping out like that. Whoops. Now I could say it's lots of different things, but again, that's the one that I picked. I could say, I don't know, she threw something, right? She threw, she's in an egg tossing contest, right? And she threw an egg to her partner, and her partner is like over here, like, you know, hoping that they catch the egg and it doesn't get squashed on their clothes, right? It could have been that, you see? There's so many different things that she could be doing, right? I just like the flag. I wanted you to see that these are two objects. They both have physics in them. And there's something about them that makes me think of this object, right? That one is, I think this one's pretty far out there, right? To take the model and say, oh, she reminds me of a flag, right? So, you know, I'm drawing her. I want to think of this, you know, upward openness that she gave me. I want to think of her arms like this, you know, flowing with her body, right? I like all of this. This was the flag right there. You see it? That's the flag to me, right? So there it is. I'm going right after it. And I'm like, I want this idea of the flag unfurling. Is there other stuff going on? Yeah, of course, you know, but, and it's her human body, but the flag is what I was after, right? So I'm already gotten my idea, quite honestly, in here. I just wanted to give you one that was very abstract, right? So you can see, wow, this can go pretty, you know, pretty far, right? This thinking can go pretty far. We've got our legs in perspective, right? Lots of perspective. The other one's down here, right? So flag unfurling, right? Let's see, let's do some others. Here I pushed more into character, right? So to me here, two things can happen that come to my mind. Either she's like casting some kind of giant spell or a fireball, or she's somebody pushing against something. Something's coming at her, maybe like she's a superhero and a car was thrown at her and she's like low on the ground and she's fighting the, you know, the forward momentum of this car sliding on the ground. She's got her body against it, right? Which is really cool. Or like I said, she's shooting something out, right? So I did the shooting out here just to give you an image. I'm not sure what show this is from, my apologies. So let's see. Yeah, if you do know, throw it in the comments. I'd be curious to know. You know, and as you're figure drawing, there's nothing stopping you from adding the story into it. You know, like I might take her arms, you know, and say, here's one, let's get the other one in there. Right, and add some design to this. Right, that she actually is shooting something. Right, like figure drawing does not have to be, not that it can't be, but it doesn't have to be only just drawing the model, right? Like you can come here and use your model time to draw characters, right? Really fun. Fun. Even just drawing from movies where somebody already is potentially a character, like if you watched a Marvel movie or Star Wars or whatever, just going in there and drawing from the films, you know, and drawing characters, I think great just to get the posing. Maybe you see a pose that some main character takes, but you switch it to something else, right? Again, comparisons, and you change it that way. I think that's how you start to, you know, grow your creative mind, right? You know, Netflix has Seinfeld on it right now, which I've been watching, of course, because Seinfeld was huge when I was younger. And you know, his comedy is it's based on real life moments, right? Like, but yet he, you know, he inventively comes up with ideas, comparisons typically around those concepts, you know, like that's really the vast majority of his comedy. Like, oh, this thing is like this, right? Like, take a look at that. Isn't that weird that it's like this, right? And he puts some other comparison there that makes it funny and brings it to our attention, right? Something that you may not normally pay attention to, right? So lots of power in it, not only in drama and in drawing, writing and comedy, right? So here she is, she's like blasting something, right? This could have been, you know, the side of the front of a car, right? Like, let's say here's a car. I could have put this in here. Here's a headlight, Here's like the wheel of the car. Here's the bottom of the car, right? And it's sliding towards her, and she's now, right? Like all this dirt and stuff's kicking up like this, you see? Here's the other tire, you see? So this is the other image that was in my head, right? If I'm in a drawing session, by the way, I might not even draw that car, but when I'm drawing the model, this is the picture I have in my head. You see, so all of a sudden someone might come over and see my drawing like, wow, how did you get to that? Well, you don't really want to know because this is all the weird stuff that's actually going on for the drawing to get to that place, you know, and sometimes it does take all these other thoughts we're talking about for your drawing to have more drama in it, right? All right, last but not least is this image, right? These are all Noe, by the way, that I've been sharing with you. She's one of the models at drawingforce.com. And this pose, I can't help but think, I'm scared, right? Why? Again, like always ask the why, because that's where you learn. You know, it's like, why am I getting fear out of that? Well, she's crouched down. So there's something bigger than her that she's dealing with. And you being smaller than something else, it's very easy to be afraid of it. It seems like it's more powerful. Her hands being up in the air, right? It feels like she's protecting herself from something, right? Someone might say, you know, you could look at this and say, well, someone's throwing a giant ball at her because her hand, her bottom hand almost looks like it wants to cup whatever is getting brought to her, right? So I've grabbed the fear thing. This is obviously, God, I just blanked, Psycho, right? Bates Motel and all. These are shots from Psycho. And so, you know, I can draw her. Now I have an idea. So I'm thinking about the fear thing. So as I'm drawing her, that's sort of my test of, is my drawing successful, right? I can judge it on, did I get the idea? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Look at her shoulder pushing up to her face. That's important. I'm like, I didn't really see that before, but now that I draw her, I'm like, that feels important. There's something about the crouching up of your shoulders, right? You'll notice the other one is up as well. That's, you know, it gives you a sense of protection. It's like being a turtle, right? She's hiding her head in there, right? This turtle-like thing that's going on, right? Right, so I'm getting the pose very fast, simple, forceful shapes. It'd be great sort of style for storyboarding what I'm doing here. All right, really quick, simple force shapes just to get this idea out there. Get the head, see I'm pushing her head down. I'm like, that was too straight. I want it more tilted. The more tilted it gets, the more it feels like she's pushing away from whatever it is that's scaring her, right? So then at least I can assess my little drawing. This is, you know, less than a minute. And it's like, does this feel right? Yeah, it's got the right intentions, the right ideas. There's things I'd probably want to fix from a design standpoint. I'm like, this is too tangential. It's too much. This stuff is all too noisy over here, right? So maybe I would, maybe I'd go in here and fix this and make the silhouette clearer. I might bring her leg through her body to like here. See? This way I can make the silhouette better, right? Go back and forth in black and white here. And just try to get this to work better, you see? So I'm taking things into my own account now, right? And just trying to make it work. But that feels pretty good. It feels like somebody, you know, kind of hiding out from something. You know, they're crouched down. You can see she's like leaning herself in this way to get away. Like all the energy is going out this way. You know, she's moving away from the camera, basically. Her eyes are wide. If I went in there, you know, having the wide eyes where your iris basically is floating in the white of your eye, that works really well too, right? Like looking at the expression. Her iris is just barely touching the top and the bottom, you see? So when you float them like that, that's a good sign of, of shock, right? Don't walk around like that. All right, I'm gonna stop there, hand this over to Swanley. I hope my segment helped you guys with some fun thoughts about using comparisons to help you come up with ideas. Let me get Swanley some power here. All right, Swanley, you ready?
Yes, pass me the He-Man sword.
Here you go.
All right, let's see, let's go to Clip Studio. So yeah, talk about comparisons. That's exactly the idea that I got for this figure. You know, when I saw this pose, I was like, what does this remind me of? And it reminded me of like this car hood ornaments, you know, because the figure has kind of like a sense of speed to it. I grab another color here. And if you look at these designs, you can see that they are all built on the idea of speed. You know, like notice that all of them have a clear sense of direction. It's all going forward. You know, which is what happened when a car is moving typically. You know, so this is what this figure reminded me of. You know, and like Mike mentioned earlier, like having these ideas allows you to also like push it in a certain direction. You know, so now that I have this idea in mind, I want to push this further. I'm like, this is a good start, but what if, and of course the, again, this is the like the leading edge of the pose. Now this is the direction that she's moving in. So what if we increase that applied force? You know, let's say we add a bigger arrow here. That would mean that our chest would push out even more. So let's push that. No, I want to increase this, and I want this speed, you know. So this line represents again the idea. I'm imagining this arrow of applied force, you know, pushing even more on the ribs. You know, what would happen? That would mean that the pelvis would drag behind even more. You know, so I have to really loosen up, you know, to capture that sense of speed. I want this to stretch behind her. You know, same here. You know, this is all being dragged, and you have a bit of compression here at the midsection. So this going around, this all compressed. And we go around, and I can see like the closest edge of the hip, and this leg needs to drag behind even more than in the reference. You know, so once again, I'm loosening up and being very fluid because this is my experience. You know, I can't get this experience, this idea on paper if I draw this super slow and fearful. Now I have to speed it up. So this leg's like, this knee is like thrusting out. It seems like it's working front to back like this, and this foot is pointing up. So I want to angle the upper torso just slightly more backwards than in the reference. Now, so I have all this applied force here. This is stretching. Now, her hands and arm, I mean, is stretching behind her. And here would be the wrist, and she's holding this rope back here. And his fingers are relaxed, kind of like the thumb and the palm of the hand that are doing most of the work. You know, you can see how the rope is like hanging in between the hands, and even the rope, I would want it to be affected by the force, you know, so this would be dragging behind her as well. You know, so that's the main idea that I want to go for here. Let's see, so this shoulder, this arm is going up, and in order for her to hold the rope back there, this arm needs to bend like this. Also, I need to reach here, so this needs to stretch a bit more. It's like a hook. I'm holding onto that rope. And I want this side to like drag behind her as well. So I want this whole pose to be about this idea of the applied force pushing her forward. You know, there's a sense of speed and stretch the whole thing. Move this just a little bit. And let's get rid of this guy. Okay, same for the neck. Like this is all, it's all stretching, it's all being dragged behind. You can see the chin sticking out here. And the head is hanging backwards a little bit. No, so this would be my first shot at the idea. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's good, still close to the reference. I want to push that idea further. You know, if I look at these guys right here, there's an even more sense of speed. You know, especially this one, for example, like look at how everything is like dragging behind. You know, I can really feel the speeds in these. So let's see if we can push that even more, which means that this arc, this needs to get even stronger. And notice that it's one big arc, it's one idea that I'm working on. You know, if I break it down and, you know, like Mitunde showed earlier, and I'm fearful about it, I'm not going to capture that sense of speed that I'm after. You know, so the line work has to match the idea that I want. I want this to drag behind even more. So we're going around now into that hip. This leg would be stretching even more. You know, so I'm focusing on the forces and not concerned with copying anything. So this leg is thrusting forwards, coming around, just pointing up. Let's get a center line here. And I think with this much applied force, I should like show the ribs a bit more. Like this would really be like poking out there at the front. The lower back here. Now this is compressed. Let's see if we can stretch this even more. So I have to again loosen up and really be abstract. Focus on the forces. So she's holding that rope, and it's all dragging behind. Heads really affected by the forces even more than before. Yeah, so this would be the first like the basis for my idea. You know, now that the idea, the story is here, I can continue refining it. And even when I start adding the details, you know, I let everything follow that main idea that I had. All right, see, we have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to stop here. Hopefully this helped you guys and inspired you to, you know, go beyond just wanting to copy and make the drawing process more exciting.
All right, guys, let's take one last look before we head out. Any last questions from you guys out there? Awesome stuff, Mike. Thank you, Carlos. Some amazing extension athletes are some of the best models to draw. I remember how Swanley used to insist on me drawing faster. It puzzled me at first, but now I understand how he could see my line was too slow. Thanks for the 550 model pack. I can always find a pose that tells the story. It's always helpful when I don't know what to draw. I can see all the work that went into putting it together. Yeah, it's definitely done. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining us today. We will see you next week, of course, as always, with another Force Friday session. Quick reminder, in case you're not on the website or in the newsletter, CTNX, which is an animation expo at Burbank, California, is happening next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend. I will be there in person Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I will be doing an hour-long drawing workshop on Saturday and Sunday around lunchtime. So if you're in the Los Angeles area, go check out the convention. I know part of it is in person and part of it will be online. So I will be there in person, and I hope to get the chance to meet some of you. So thanks again, Swami and Mrityunjay. We will see you guys next Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.